Yes, everybody, welcome to Full Course Yellow here on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel and the In Pit Lane Facebook page. It's good to have your company once again. We've got many of the regulars are joining us for as we welcome back Formula One. Yes, Formula One is back this weekend. So lots to talk about there. Also coming up this weekend, not just the opening round of the FAA World Endurance Championship, the Sebring 1000, but also, of course, some of the probably more famous race, the Sebring 12 Hour, the opening round, the round of the IMSA North American Sports Car Championship. So that is happening well as we welcome the panel to the program. We've got as you can see, we've got Doc, we've got Stuart. We've got Dave Stillwell, Richard Outram, and Pete Johnson joining us this week as well. So, hello to everybody, and also hello to the people watching at home at the moment. Let's bring it up. We've got Box joining us once again. So good to see you again. There we go. Yes. There we go from Russell. Or there. Yes. Cad and Morris at Bungill.
Place.
Oh, okay.
I got the theatre down there. That'll be pretty.
Oh, right. Is that so? Yes. I must check into that if that's on Friday because that's just up the road, and I might actually have some time off. So yeah, thank you for that. I didn't know that was on. Okay. Yeah, Simpson, the Historics were at the island. That was that last week, was it? The Cad and Morris. Anyway, we'll find out that a bit later on. Okay. There you go.
So, breaker.
Yes, Vettel out. So Dan has been spreading his germs. So Vettel out. Hulkenberg in. Dan Ricciardo is back. He's tested negative after he has it, but obviously Sebastian Vettel has copped it and tested positive. So yes, Hulkenberg.
That's a shame.
Returns.
I'm not a fan of Vettel, but I am a fan of what he's been speaking out with the politics over the last.
He's improved his game, hasn't he, Stuart? Yep.
He's speaking out and actually using the platform for some good.
That's agreed.
As indeed he should. So thank you, Brad, for that. Yes, we'll.
I just want to check: is this a motorsport show? Because I thought this was White Line Fever. I was on the AFL show.
Only with you, Doc.
Oh, okay, all right.
Doc is a bit distracted tonight because, as you can see, he's got his cosplay
or something.
Yes, he's got his cosplay on.
Yeah, somebody's going to have to explain to me what football is. I believe it's something you play when there's no racing.
That's what I'll be doing. You're probably right. Tomorrow night, about 6 o'clock at a reserve, I'll be doing a practice match between a couple of 20-something guys and maybe a couple of teenagers throwing punches at each other. So
yeah,
I'll be doing the similar. I'll be doing a similar sort of thing around the same time at happy hour. So there you go.
I like it.
Hey, can I quickly give a shout out before I go and get my dinner?
One
of the people who came into work, and this is so cool that it's worth mentioning, bought parts to make a dyno for a go-kart.
Oh, okay.
Literally building a dyno for a go-kart in your own garage at home. That's so cool. So if the bloke's watching, I still think it's cool, even after you bought all the parts today. It's cool.
Well, I mean, it also sounds like a possible story for In Pit Lane as well.
Hopefully, he drops back in. He needs a succession of parts, or he is successful in his venture. And
he's designing it as a kit so people can buy it.
Yeah, you can.
Okay. Yeah, then it's definitely worth doing a story. Then definitely.
We have an update for down in a few weeks. Hello, Leegee, Mister. Hello, good to have you back, buddy. Just give us an update in a couple of weeks, Stuart.
Oh, definitely. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go and update the microwave, and I'll be back.
Okay. Well, while Stuart updates his dinner, we'll update Formula One, which of course is back this weekend in Bahrain, the opening season, and we've got all sorts of we've got new rules, new regulations. We've got lots of. It'll be interesting to see what the actual racing is. We've seen the test that wasn't a test, the test before the test. Now we've seen the official test, which most people think isn't really much of a test anyway. this weekend we will see the real thing, and so we'll get a better idea of what we are going to see. And as we said last week on the program, it was Max Verstappen who was the quickest in the pre-season test ultimately. So it looks like Red Bull and of course Adrian Newey have got the sums right yet again. The question is, of course, Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes are already saying, "Oh, we're not going to be in the hunt this year. It's going to be a tough year for us. Oh, woe is me." Interesting to see that. It will be interesting to see how things finish up sometime early on Monday morning Australian time. So, Pete, I mean, what do you think? Do you think after having a look at the pre-season test, I mean, does it count for anything? I mean, is there anything there that you saw that excites you about this season?
Not really, no. I don't think it means much. I mean, I think it was good to see Charles Leclerc up there in Ferrari on some occasions, but yeah, I don't think it means much. And I think Mercedes have said that before. They've said, that they, we're not going for results, we're out of the hunt, and then they've come back up. So yeah, I think I'll just wait and see until the first race.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, with the new rules, I mean, the new rules were designed to make the racing better, so it'll be interesting to see. I think it's made the cars look better. I think the cars look fantastic. They're still too big, but I think they look much better.
The rules have just legalised a whole heap of technology that was banned during the 70s and 80s.
Is that with or without pods, Brett?
Well, that's what we're finding out as we've got in the bottom of the as we've seen in the bottom in the ticker underneath. Some of the teams, including Ferrari, have gone to the FIA and are talking about Mercedes, side pods and mirrors as to whether they meet both the actual regulations and even the spirit of the regulations, because the regulations specifically say that the mirrors should be mounted in a way that they don't provide an aerodynamic benefit for the cars, and it's pretty obvious having a look at the Mercedes mirrors that they definitely do. But I would say it's probably true of every mirror on every car. But it's certainly a different approach, and I really like the fact that we've seen a different approach from them. The Williams is looking different. We've got certainly some differences in the approach on the Red Bull. Aston Martin have done a few interesting things. McLaren, in terms of their front suspension, going for the push rod. Front suspension, the top mounted push rod rather than pull rod, or vice versa. I forget which one it is now, but they've gone sort of a different route to pretty much everybody else. So it'll be very interesting, and things will get underway tomorrow in terms of practice. I think around 10 or 11 o'clock tomorrow night Australian time, we'll see the cars will hit the track for the first time for Friday practice, and then the race is about I believe 2 a.m. on Monday. So if you've put your hand in your pocket and you've paid out for if you paid out for everything, if you paid out for KO for Formula One, and you've paid out for Stan for ARG at Phillip Island and the WEC, the one thing I can tell you is, if you go to imsa.tv, you can watch the Sebring 12 hours live and free in Australia. So there you go. That's probably what I'll be doing for a lot of my Sunday night, Monday morning.
That'll be some good background noise. Wonderful background noise.
Yes,
as much as it's potentially highly dangerous, I am looking forward to the porpoising. Some cars porpoising.
Now it's funny. Our mate Claude Rowell has been posting on his Facebook page. In terms of if you don't follow Claude on his Facebook page, by all means try and do so, because he's been putting up, and he's also been basically lecturing, lecture notes on what porpoising is, what causes it, and he was saying how very, very difficult it's going to be to get on top of this thing. He said, because he said you're fighting physics the whole way. He said, and on a beautifully smooth surface, he said you can't you can't plan for it in the wind tunnel. He said it's just, or even on the computer. He said it's impossible because you don't know it can change because of the angle of the wind. It can change because of a sudden dip or an undulation in the track. How close you're behind another car, you might pull out and suddenly it'll start doing it. You pull back in and suddenly it'll stop again. And he said it's going to be very, very interesting to see who gets on top of this first. And once again, he's sort of saying, well, Adrian Newey is a pretty cluey sort of guy, and probably will jump on this better than most people.
He's always led the pack for the last 15 years.
Well, Adrian would be one of the few people in a senior aerodynamics role in Formula One still who has experience from ground effects, not only from open-wheeler cars, but also from his time designing sports cars in the 80s. If you've read his book, How to Design a Race Car, he does go into great detail about how the early parts of his development were very much he wasn't just designing a bit of a car, he designed the whole car. So having to understand these technologies in the 70s and the 80s with, no CFD, very little in the way of rolling road wind tunnels, as we see Claude's Optimum G Facebook page there. One of the reasons why they can't replicate it in a wind tunnel environment is that obviously a wind tunnel for proper aerodynamic purposes has a rolling floor underneath it. It's basically like doing an aerodynamic test on a dyno, but the dyno is actually a rolling conveyor belt. They can't simulate it because when the car comes into contact with the rolling belt underneath it, it basically chews the entire wind tunnel up and makes it unusable. Porpoising as an aerodynamic concept is not something that's unfamiliar to people. You can even see it happen in something like V8 supercars. When the car gets a lot of attitude on it into the road and the splitter gets closer and closer to the ground, it gets more and more efficient. But once the front of the splitter cuts off the airflow under the car, you no longer have a pressure differential on both sides of the aerofoil. Therefore, the car sits up again. Then it's got a pressure differential again. So it goes back down. And it goes back up, goes back down. Hence the term porpoising. See,
that's something that Claude mentioned in the Motec seminar that some of us were lucky enough to attend. But it seems to me that all of the commentators doing all of the broadcast for testings, they were under the impression that there was something under the back of the car that allowed the car to, like, it was hitting or it was stopping the air. They have seriously no idea of how downforce works from underbody Venturis.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's the most radical change in Formula One aerodynamic regulations in the last 25 years. We lack a lot of the understanding and the ability to talk about it. Yeah, Brundle would get it because he'd be one of the few people able to talk about sport who's driven a car with flat underbody, not only from a Formula One perspective, but from the mid-90s sports cars that would have the same thing.
Even Coulthard would probably get it as well too. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. Well, as we spoke about with Sebastian Vettel not taking part this weekend, Daniel Ricciardo is taking part, which means unfortunately Oscar Piastri won't get a gig. But I'm pretty sure that at some stage during the year we will see Oscar Piastri behind the wheel of something, and probably the Alpine. Alpine were very good in letting him fill in for Daniel if that was the case. So we were definitely going to have an Australian in the race this weekend, and but it now looks like it's going to be going to be Daniel. So that's good.
If nothing else, Oscar's probably of the reserve drivers and test drivers amongst all the teams up and down pit lane. He'd probably be the one with the highest number of super license points who's actually genuinely there on merit. So, unfortunately, Renault is in the unfortunate position of only supplying engines to one team. So they don't have Alpine only has an engine deal with themselves. They don't have a junior team or a satellite team that they share, engineering resources or powertrain, supply with. So they don't have as much leverage.
Which is why they may well be.
How does Daniel sitting out affect Oscar in the Alpine?
Because he was going to be on loan
for McLaren.
Because he was
going to be
in
on
the
loan.
mix to be in
Aussie. Okay.
Yeah,
he was on loan, so he's got. The two teams, even though they are separate entities, they have a mutual relationship that they want to work together. And if it comes to a driver, it would have been a win-win for both of them. Oscar gets some experience in F1. He goes back to so forth, and everyone's in happy places. It's one of those situations in Formula One that does work, and two teams would appreciate the outcome.
And McLaren,
and if we go back 18 months ago, there was a Renault engine in the back of the McLaren. So
yeah, that's interesting. And they left on. They seem to leave, part on not entirely good terms, and yet sort of, there's obviously some communication there. And Alpine sort of said, yes, you can. I mean, it works out well for everybody because Alpine gets a chance to look at Oscar behind the wheel of a car with in a race situation. Without it being one of their cars, but that's probably one of the reasons why the rumour is going around that if the Andretti thing gets off the ground at some stage, that Alpine could be the engine supplier there, because it would certainly help. It would certainly help Alpine if they had the Renault engine in the back of another car, and they could bring up people like Oscar and all of the other people who were in those driver academies. I mean, we've seen how Ferrari have used the Alfa Romeo team for their guys, and we've seen Mercedes use Williams. Now but Renault have only got Alpine, so it makes it very hard for them.
Although, do we think perhaps that Andretti might have very close ties with Honda, based on their IndyCar connections?
Yes, well,
and of course, Honda's also recommitted to the sport up until the end of the current powertrain regulations.
The interesting thing, though, is they're talking in terms of the Alpine. They're saying that the Andretti thing might be a two-hander thing, because the Andretti have obviously got an involvement in LMP2, and they're looking to get involved in Hypercar and whatever, LMDH and with sports cars. And there's some talk that there might be some sort of coming together between the Alpine LMP1 or Hypercar program and Andretti as well. So yeah, that could be interesting. Whether that happens, we don't know at this stage, but it would be interesting to see anyway. Okay, so that's so any other Peter? Anybody else got anything else to say about Formula One?
Was there ever any consensus on the little aerodynamic pieces over the front wheels and what they've been named now?
No, I haven't seen a name. I haven't seen a name for them.
I haven't followed that up either.
Caterham covers.
Yeah,
Lotus lips.
Covers. No, I believe the most popular name, because I've been watching the Sky coverage for it, was wheel brows of all things. And it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that works. Yeah,
it does.
Or tire brows. Tire brows.
I'll go. I know where you're coming from, but yeah, I think the wheel brows.
Of course,
everyone's spraying.
This
and the other thing is, are these things going to affect how long it takes to do a tyre change on the front end of a Formula One? Are we going to expect to see the changes back down in the 2-second range? Because I think we are.
No, it just means that the people taking the tyres on and off will have to be really careful.
No.
And
I'm sorry, folks. If you're watching this, I'm sorry.
We missed you last week, Dave.
from your nicknames.
Did you finish on time?
You've been waiting to do that all day, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, what can I say? I'm quite tired at the moment.
Okay. But on that note,
on that note. To finish off the Formula One, of course, given that the last weekend was the Phillip Island Historic and the Monday Labor Day public holiday, that of course means that this is traditionally the weekend that we would see Formula One kick off around the banks of Albert Park Lake in sunny Melbourne, beside Port Phillip Bay. Of course, we won't get to see that until the third round of the FIA Formula One World Championship. But I have gone for a cycle around there basically every week on a Tuesday night for the last several weeks, and to see the facility morph into, it obviously does take a while for a lot of the works to set up the temporary facility, but it is looking immensely good. All of the earthworks they've had to do to realign some of the sections of track, everything's grassed. Of course, we didn't have a scorching summer, so everything's green. A lot of new corporate facilities have been set up. The grandstands are mostly in place. It's still publicly accessible, so if you are in in the Melbourne area. If you're coming over for the Shannon's Motorsport Australia Championships, you can swing past Albert Park Lake. You can drive around there at 40 kilometres an hour. It is a truly magnificent, temporary facility, and it did set, after the bar that was set by Adelaide, for sort of 10 or 11 years, Melbourne did raise the bar once again for setting up a Formula One event and showcasing how well it could be done. And I think, Mr. Westacott and all the team at the Grand Prix Corporation very much looking forward to next month when they can finally get the V6 turbos screaming around Albert Park Lake.
I'm very much looking forward to the Grand Prix Corporation and Mr. Westacott returning my phone calls or my emails at the moment. We seem to have dropped off the radar of the Grand Prix Corporation. We've had a very good relationship with them for many years. Andrew, of course, has been a regular guest on the program over the past decade or the time he's been involved, but. Yes, lots of phone calls have been made and lots of emails have been sent, but the last message I got was, "Don't call us, we'll call you." I'm still waiting, so there you...
Yeah. But that being said, I'm very much looking forward to getting back there, part of a massive suite of Motorsport Australia, and indeed inviting international officials to put on the
Silly, when it comes down to it, and you're not alone there because Sunday's already sold out and looks like it's going to be the biggest ever, so... You won't be alone, buddy. I think everyone else has already jumped on and bought the tickets as well too. So if
absolutely, of course, there's a lot of people who've carried their tickets over from 2020, who of course, the diehard fans who were there on Friday morning, Friday the 13th, a very auspicious day in 2020. Of course, that was for pretty much everyone in the motorsport community. That was when COVID became a reality and everything stopped, or at least that was the tip of the iceberg. It'll be nice to come back sort of 2 years later, 3 years since we had Formula One cars on track in 2019. New cars, new rules, new faces, and of course a reconfigured track. Absolutely looking forward to it. Can't wait.
Do you, having ridden around there, is the reconfiguration of the circuit, do you think it's going to make much of a difference?
I think it's probably indicative of, everyone kind of was, poo-pooing the Azerbaijan, the Baku layout, but, putting a massive straight into a circuit where these cars can really run and get up behind each other and have some overtaking, it worked. And then we've seen that flow into a lot of the new circuits. If we think about the debut of the Jeddah circuit in Saudi Arabia last year, that was reminiscent of Baku by also having a really long straight. We've seen at Monza epic slipstreaming battles. So as much as we like these cars are, fantastic through the corners, they are absolute rocket ships in a straight line. And it will change the nature of the circuit. But I think you'll need to wait for the proof to be in the pudding, and we'll definitely get a taste of that this weekend at Bahrain to see how the new cars follow each other. What the trade-off is between mechanical grip versus aerodynamic grip. And what sort of times they do when it actually counts, as opposed to putting numbers up on Twitter.
Yeah, I think that as Andrew's saying, we hope that the new regulations will make the racing better. I don't think the racing has been really bad, but anything that makes it better is going to be good. And as I say, I think the cars are certainly going to be interesting. I'm certainly going to be, I'm hoping to be there one day. I mean, I'm hoping to be there to actually scan your tickets as you walk through the door, because then I'll get some money. So, that's about as close as I'll get to getting any pay for attending the Grand Prix. But I'm not sure whether I'll be able to sort of sneak away at some stage and actually see cars going around on the track. But I'm certainly hoping so.
I reckon, Brett, within the community, I think we might be able to find you a guest pass or two. I think we can make that happen.
Jesus, no one has for 26 years.
All you got to do is ask.
Well, we'll see. I think that's it. I don't go crawling for tickets, but it's nice when you get them.
Just as a side note, and we don't want to harp on all night because we're just clutching at straws a little bit to a certain extent, because it's there'll be a bit of water under the bridge this time before they get to Australia. So we'll actually see the form of some of the cars and how they perform, and some of the technological advances that they've all been able to work out and maybe nut a few bolts or put some eyebrows on their tyres or whatever it may be by then. So it's going to be a different situation when they get to Australia, because we also know that comes into the mix sometimes when they come to Australia, they don't necessarily bring full container loads of parts with them as well too. They limit what they can bring over and how much they can develop. Sometimes when they don't do that until they get back to over in Europe, and the teams behind the scenes can fully develop some of their upgrades. So it's going to be a different scenario for the teams that come out there this year, having a few races under their belt, and they need to obviously tick a few boxes on what they can and can't do by the time they get here. So and just like you two guys just said, the circuit hopefully will induce more entertainment, because that's what we're crying out for. And some of the crowds that Brett, myself, and some of the in-pit lane crew lately have been going to, as well as yourself, Stilly, in a administrative or a medical point of view, it's been bumper so far throughout Victoria and from all reports in New South Wales. So thank you, Stuart.
I think there are actually some of my photos there.
Oh, okay.
That's from the race talk.
Have you been moonlighting on the talk? Have you?
I may have shared some photos with Mr. Crail.
Oh, look how much work's been done.
Yeah, so that was during the middle of the resurfacing. So that's about 6-7 weeks ago, I think. So middle of January.
Now, hang on, still. This is something that's going to benefit everybody, regardless of their motorsport fans or not, because it's an upgrade to the park that everybody gets to use during the rest of the year.
Yeah, look, the parking situation, the line marking, it's made it much more. It's far safer for cyclists. For those who don't know, Albert Park is a massive multi-use sporting precinct. Golf, cricket, football, tennis, soccer, and of course the pit building turns into an indoor sport facility when the circuit's not in use. So indoor soccer, indoor football, squash, netball, basketball, etc. So they've widened a lot of the areas. They've improved a lot of the amenities. The lighting's improved. They've relocated some of the pathways. Just basically, that's the Grand Prix Corporation working hand in hand with the council and the park. I think Parks Victoria, of course, are heavily involved. Yep. It's like, look, we're going to do this stuff. What can we do at the same time? A little bit like what Supercars went through when they helped redevelop or put in, new water mains in the east of Newcastle when the Newcastle 500 was going on. Yes, absolutely. The turns 9 and 10. Long live turns 9 and 10. They are now gone. There is still sort of a righty bend and then a lefty bend, which is sort of the spiritual successors to 9 and 10. But you will arrive at the Lakeside chicane at 11 and 12 at a very rapid rate of knots. I'd expect to see speeds in excess of 200 miles an hour there, particularly with these cars. And almost all the drivers rave about, rocking up to that chicane blind and then having to, turn hard left at, over 125, 140 mile an hour.
Just quickly do the conversion in your head. 200 mile an hour is about 380 kilometers?
No, 321. Yeah. So most Formula One cars at Albert Park will normally top out at, traditionally it was between sort of 315, 325.
And we know it's the aerodynamics that make them top out. They've got the power to go faster if you take the load off.
Not necessarily, because, of course, they're limited to 8 speeds in the transmission. Of course, they've got that fuel flow meter. So they're actually limited to a maximum fuel flow. So as the engine starts spinning faster and faster, you can't actually put in much more fuel in. As we know, that's what caused Daniel Ricciardo to have his second-place podium on debut for Red Bull Racing in 2014, from memory. That's what kicked him off the podium, was a breach of the fuel flow regulation. So,
well, as you said, it's not necessarily fuel flow. If your diff only reaches a certain speed, or your gearbox only reaches a certain speed, you're maxed out. You see your revs on your counter. Therefore, you're only stuck at that speed. So there's a number of different entities that actually can max you out, not just one.
Yeah, but no, the park is looking brilliant. Definitely for the long-term future of the event. It had sort of been left. This was the first time there's been any resurfacing done there in over 25 years. So they got pretty good value out of the road surfacing, bearing in mind that, part of it, not the whole circuit, but about, 30 to 40% of the circuit is fairly heavily trafficked roads during normal business hours. The other sort of 60, 70% of the circuit is really only there to sort of access the recreational facilities. But I think overall, it's not just, a lick of paint and, we'll paint the grass green like normally. It is looking really, really great. And I think it's going to put, Melbourne and Australia back on the map to the international community, which is the entire point of the Victorian government having the contract with Formula One and Liberty Media, is to showcase the state. And, we know that, Melbourne is Victoria, the place to be, world's most livable city, TM. Looking forward to putting that on the international screens.
Speaking of putting places on the map again, one of the things, obviously, the Grand Prix put Adelaide on the map for many years, but one of the things that kept it on the map was the Adelaide 500, and we might see the Adelaide 500 back this time next week. We might know whether we're going to get an Adelaide 500 again, because I believe the South Australian election is happening this weekend, and the Labor opposition have said that if they are elected, if they take government, which I think it's going to be tight, but at the moment there's sort of a warm favourite to take that position. Then we, at the end of the year, Supercars have already said final round of the Supercar series will be the return to the streets of Adelaide. Who's excited for that?
I definitely am, because
I am.
Earlier this year, all the equipment that's been sold off. So if the Labor do come in and they do organise and make a premiere of it again, they're going to have to buy all brand spanking new stuff to make it all happen again.
No, just rent it.
Wow.
Well, rent it. Well, there's still going to be new stuff though, because a lot of it's been fire sale. So they're going to have to rent it, but they're also going to have to be new stuff involved as well too.
Well, actually, the other thing with the new stuff is it's got to be updated to current regulations as well too.
That's right. Yep.
So again, I hate to bring gambling into the equation, because, as we know, it's quite pervasive.
Just give us the odds. Just give us the odds. Okay, give us the odds.
Current odds from a major player in Australian sports betting.
Just give us the odds.
The Liberals at $4.20, Labor at $1.20.
Oh yeah. Well, So there you go. So we might.
What's the Gallup? I'd like to know the news poll though. Not just the odds. The Gallup news poll usually is a good indication as well.
Yeah, not anymore. It's not, especially after the last election. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, they have made the commitment. It's something they're not going to be able to back down from. I mean, they're definitely going to have to go ahead with it. They've signed the memorandum of understanding with Supercars to make sure that it does happen, and Supercars have certainly factored it in as being their final round. And I think being the final round would be fantastic as well, because it'll be the weather will be warming up again. It'll have that sort of the vibe that the Grand Prix used to have when it was the last round of the season for quite some time. I think it'll be fantastic, because Adelaide always put on a great event. And speaking of which, I was talking to quite a lot of the South Australian guys who would come across for the Phillip Island historic meeting last weekend, and just a reminder that coming up in April over the Anzac Day long weekend is the historic Malala, and that I attended there last year. You can see the two programs I did from there last year on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. Historic sports stands were a feature. I believe there's some talk of the Formula 5000 even being there. The Clem Smith Trophy. And Clem Smith's car was there. The Charger was on hand to pace people around. So that was fabulous. It was a fabulous weekend. They put on a great. I don't think I've been to a bad meeting in Adelaide. I mean, the race of 1,000 years still remains the best damn meeting that I've ever been to in Australia. And the Grand Prix was always excellent. The Adelaide 500 was always excellent. Malala was great. So really looking forward to if Adelaide 500, it's probably the only place that I would say, yes, I'm going to go over there and pay money and just go as a spectator and be a part of it, because it's they do such a great job.
I'm excited about it, but I worry it's going to be expensive Newcastle, which is also a good round.
No, well, Newcastle will be the
two very different commercial product. Yeah, two very different commercial prospects. they're both on separate contracts between supercars and the respective state governments. So Newcastle is a joint venture between supercars and the Newcastle City Council and is it Tourism New South Wales or Destination New South Wales? I keep forgetting which one is which. So that was one of the key reasons why we had so many events at Sydney Motorsport Park last year. Was supercars fulfilling their responsibility to host a number of events in New South Wales during 2021, and of course the hot talk in 2020 BC before COVID was that there was a deal already done between the New South Wales government and the South Australian government to swap Newcastle and Adelaide and have Newcastle kick off the year. So you kick off in Australia's Monaco of supercar circuits on the Newcastle Peninsula, and then of course finish the season in the more traditional time for the Adelaide event, going back to its roots in the 80s, where it was the final event of the Formula One calendar. And of course, one of the reasons that's been raised for the issues that the Adelaide 500 event faced was that when it started off in March was it 99, 2000 was the first sensational Adelaide 500. I'm going to get lots of angry flaming for not knowing that. Yeah, it was in the early part of the year, and having survived in Adelaide for a year and a half in my earlier years, not a lot goes. The joke is that not a lot goes on in Adelaide, but pretty much every single festival, art exhibition, concert, town flyer, street parade, pancake extravaganza, everything was packed into like a 5-week period at the start of the year. What's the line from Kenny? Oh, the sun comes out, every bastard has a festival. Whereas I think moving it later in the year to November, certainly better from a weather perspective. We see, drivers get, falling out of cars when it's in late February, early March, because it can be absolutely terrible hot conditions. Whereas do it late in November, finish off the season. The cars will have, done Bathurst, they'll have done Gold Coast, maybe one other event, maybe, Sandown or Phillip Island, something like that, and then finish off, in Adelaide. If nothing else, it's a great place to go and knock off for the, I can imagine the gala dinner from the Adelaide ballroom somewhere in Adelaide will be great. And then, of course, the drivers can all knock off and, go to Kangaroo Island with the families for a well-earned vacation. Well, that being said, the Barossa is not too far away either.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, everything is fairly close in Adelaide. I mean, the way you talk, the way Adelaide people talk. I mean, if you talk about sort of the places like the Barossa and all the rest of it, they say, oh, it's way out there, and it's like by Melbourne or Sydney standards, it's an outer suburb. So they've got great they've got great beaches. They've got the Barossa Valley. They've got the hills. They've got there's lots and lots of, and if you feel like you want to see the outback is out there as well, so you can
it's literally out the back of Adelaide.
It is literally outback, so great place, and I think it would be fabulous to have the race back. Just down the bottom there, just something that I heard. I don't know whether this has even been officially announced. I haven't actually seen it. It may have been announced elsewhere. But some good news for a friend of the program, young Ricky Capo, will be racing in the DTM Trophy for the legendary Timo Bernhard for his team coming up. Ricky left yesterday, I believe, and has probably just arrived in Germany and is getting ready for the opening round of the DTM Trophy. That's the sort of the feeder series for the DTM itself.
It's the GT4 level feeder series to the now GT3 chassis using DTM, which of course the unique selling prospect of that series, it's just another GT3 series. Well, it's pretty much the only series in the world that uses GT3 cars in a sprint format. It's one driver, one technical pit stop, and that's it. There's no driver ranking, changing pit stop. It's like there's a pit stop and then you go. They had a fairly, shall we say, sensational finish to their first season under GT3 regulations.
It was interesting, yes. I mean, like It's like, Formula One. I mean, it was before Formula One, but it was almost anything you can do, we can do better. I mean, it was pretty.
Well, it involved a Red Bull back driver getting a little bit, a little bit. Sorry, it was a Red Bull and a Mercedes actually.
Yes,
tied up with each other. But no, actually, on a recent episode of Midweek Motorsport, care of our friends at Radio Le Mans and Radio Show Limited, they also had an interview with, I believe it was either the race director or the series director for the DTM, who gave sort of their report card on where they're going. That is a bit like supercars. For those people who don't follow DTM so much, it's effectively the highest level German national series that is sort of somewhat international. They have occasionally done rounds in the neighbouring countries. They've ditched their what was it, Category 1 or Level 1 super, basically Le Mans prototype GT sports car GTP thing. And
which is a shame. I mean, those cars were made. I mean, effectively the same regulations. They merged and became the same regulation as Super GT.
Class
and
1. There we go.
Yeah, having seen Super GT in the flesh and being able to have a look at them closely in the garages at Malaysia a couple of years ago, those things are just astonishing.
Yeah. Well, you can still catch that kind of car in Super GT, but of course DTM as a company effectively is run like an events company. It's like supercars. It has TV deals, it has commercial deals in place, but what it also has, a bit like supercars, is a suite of support categories. So I haven't had the pleasure of attending a DTM event in Germany yet. I have attended TCR Europe and the Spa 24, but certainly from all reports, it's basically like going to a supercar meeting. You're going to get high quality, turned out product, several support races, and then the big show. It's big TV audience, and there is huge, even though they've gone back to, essentially customer specification cars, it's big. It's a big deal for the manufacturers: BMW, Audi, Mercedes, Porsche, Lamborghini, Ferrari. It's the place to be with brands, both automotive and automotively engaged, in the German and German speaking markets.
It certainly has paid off for them. I mean, there was some worries when they did move across, but if you have a look at the entry for this coming season, there's new teams coming in. There's top drivers, and it's looking like it's going to be. It's going to be very, very successful this year. So good luck to young Ricky Capo, of course, who last year raced in S5000 and well, as
great segue.
Yes, thank you. That's why they pay me the big bucks. Barry Rogers, who is a guest coming up this week on In Pit Lane. And Barry was talking about this on the program. If you happen to watch, this is one of the advantages of watching the recording of the show live. You get the scoop on all of this, and he was certainly talking about this on Tuesday night. About the situation with the super license at the moment, and just the frustration that they're feeling right now with Motorsport Australia, the fact that in order to get the super license to move into supercars, you have to currently do a certain number of races in the Dunlop Super 2 series, and as Barry was saying, the S5000's some of the fastest cars in Australia at most circuit, very powerful, potentially like the Australia's Formula One. And yet they don't really count for much in terms of super license. And he said yesterday in an article to Speed Cafe that ultimately, if things don't change, that the future of S5000 might not be as rosy as we were hoping, and they might look at the possibility of seeing about selling the concept off, possibly overseas or. And that would be a real shame if this thing sort of fell over before it had the opportunity to get started. That'd be a damn shame. But you can watch that. You can watch that interview. You can watch an edited version of the interview on In Pit Lane at 8:00 next Tuesday night on Channel 31 across free to air across Melbourne and Geelong, and you can watch the extended interview and other bonus content on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel on demand from 8:30 next Tuesday night. And Barry has a lot of interesting things to say. I think that's probably true. And what a nice bloke he is, Doc.
Absolutely, I got the absolute pleasure of introducing him to RMIT, which he was a student that Brett and I had a chat about earlier in the evening. So he did back in the late 80s. I think he said he did 4 years there and was very interested in the layout of the university at the time. But no, hell of a great bloke. And we didn't get to talk about the old Swedish sauna hot tub thing. That ended up in the back of the container back to Sweden with the Volvos, but I got the full gist of it as I was walking down Bowen Street after we did the show that night. So it's hilarious. I think he did he mentioned on Speed Cafe a little while ago, but I got the full story and it's hilarious. So if you ever see Barry at a track, say hello and ask him about that if he's got 2 minutes of fun. I do have a little scoop, not a big scoop like some of you guys have had, but a little scoop. I've found out what's been going on down at the Oakley Karting Club and the track. So, yes, this is actually first-hand information because this guy is a consultant for a very, very recognisable high-up asphalt laying company here in Australia. And it's not the one I'm about to mention, but it's another one, and they had to bring him in. So what happened with the layout at the Oakley karting and the delay they've had was they extended the track, which was a wonderful concept. Brett's been keeping an eye out over his backyard fence and looking after he picks some limes for us and goes and has a look at the track for me. So they've extended up where it used to be the staging area in the pits and stuff like that. So it was a wonderful thing to have. What they did is they took the chance of getting enlisting Fulton Hogan in to re-asphalt the whole track. What they did, the risky part they took was they laid, with the machinery, half a track at a time. When I say half the track, they actually went one side of the track. So if you've got, say, a 4 metre width of the track all the way around, they did 2 metres of it all the way around from start to finish. And then they did the other side, 2 metres around start to finish. The problem with that was it was 10 mil difference in the middle of the track after they laid it. Whoops. So
that's interesting.
Where it was. So they thought about let's just put some asphalt in the middle and just smooth it all over. No. Everyone knows it's racing. You can't do that. You've got a high side and a low side. You don't want your own circuit. So it'd be probably worse than Calder down the Calder Dome. So they've had to strip a whole lot back, and so they brought in a friend of mine who's a consultant for a high-up company, and he said, "Well, look, it's pretty obvious what you've done. You're going to have to fix it." So they've had to relay right down the middle of the cut it off and layer it and cut it back, and now they've got the track level.
That's
again.
A shame.
So they're almost. It's cost another pretty penny to get it all done, but they've almost got it ready again, almost finished, and that's what the delay was from the. So just if you're gonna, I won't say anymore.
Yeah, that's a shame because if that had worked, if they'd been able to delay the two levels at the exact same height, that'd be a seamless track the entire lap, which would have been brilliant for everybody driving on it.
Yeah, I mean they had
no joins, no bumps.
10 mil, 1
beautiful.
centimetre. 10 mil,
That's
so
such a shame.
Fix that up. That's where
they had the one meeting on there, and unfortunately, and that was the only one they got, and that was. And they've been sort of saying ever since that we'll fix this and we'll get back as soon as possible. But obviously it's taken a lot longer. And how many times have we seen sort of resurfacing go very bad?
The resurfacing, they also did it. They did it 2 days apart as well too. So one had completely set, and the other one. So instead of laying them both at the same time as quickly as possible, if you were going to do it partial, they did it 2 days apart, as well as a 10 mil 1 centimetre gap down the middle in height. So that's why
you reckon someone walked down there with a hard hat and a high vis vest on. Yeah, someone walked down there with a foreman's hat on, a high vis vest, and a hard hat, looked and went, son of a bitumen.
Oh, he's
okay. The dad joke. If I explode in about 8 minutes' time, it's because the first time in 8 years my team is going to win, and they just kicked another goal. So it's 98-76. So we have just gone from 12 points down about 20 minutes at the start of the quarter to absolutely going out of fashion right now. So if I just explode in a few minutes, it's been 8 years in the waiting.
Well, it'll be a good visual. I mean, Doc exploding on YouTube. I mean, that's going to get hits.
And ratings.
Ratings.
Just think of all the memes.
I am in the kitchen, so I can find something to to blow myself up with anyway. So there you go.
I hope you can find something to clean up.
I'm thinking chilies. That'd be ideal.
I gotta go.
Just so the steam comes out as well.
So what's on the menu for this weekend, Brett? Where can people find and keep in contact with the In-Pit Lane crew with the events that are coming up this weekend? There's a bit on.
There is a bit on. And I don't know what the situation is at this stage because we're supposed to be going down to Phillip Island and possibly, and fingers crossed, having a chat with young Mr. Stefan Rattel, who is visiting Australia and coming down to the island to have a look and have a bit of a chat with the locals in the GT World Challenge Australia. 21 cars lined up and quite a good driving crew behind that. A number of the supercar drivers, Dave Reynolds and Tony D'Alberto, the Bathurst winner in Chaz Mostert. So a lot of Shane Van Gisbergen. So there's a whole lot of star drivers down there.
And friend of the show, Sam Brabham, of course, landing a seat at the last minute.
Yes, Sam. So I'd like to catch up with Sam. Is the only racing member of the Brabham family I have yet to actually interview. So
I might be able to put you two in touch. I was actually messaging with him tonight. I said, scored a seat for the weekend, have you? He said, yes, finally made something happen out here. And I asked what his FIA ranking was, because, of course, one of the prerequisites for GT racing is you'd be awarded an FIA driver ranking. So he is a silver, but he's been given this dispensation for this weekend. I said, well, that's okay. I mean, I'm a bronze and I've got my helmet and race suit with me. So if they get desperate, they really need a bronze, I'll be more than happy to clear my schedule.
You want extra special dispensation still, do you? So it's not the special extra.
No. I just need the extra large seat insert.
It's
like foam that's about that thin.
Yeah. Sam's been waiting for that drive since 2019, so he flew out a while ago and he's been sitting on it for a while. So we all wish him the best. Just quickly, some MotoGP news. To answer your question, Brett, Remy gets a pass. I won't go into details of pass so far. It's been a difficult start for a lot of teams, including the Ducatis, absolutely wiping themselves out. But they're in the controversy, might go to courts, all the hoo-ha, all that sort of stuff at the moment, because they have the ride height suspension upgrade they started doing 18 months ago that everyone's now copied and thinks it's just part of a MotoGP bike.
Is this the thing where like they do it for like test rides where they can set the suspension off launches and then it changes on the way into a corner, like it can bring the back end of the bike down? Is that how it works?
That has been going. So Ducati developed it and launched it about 18 months ago, and now everyone's copied. And even Joan Mir mentioned when he won his MotoGP championship a couple of years ago, and Suzuki had implemented it during that year. He said, I probably couldn't have won the championship that year without that ride height launch, as you just said, Stilly. So spot on, my dear chap.
Speaking of things you can't live without, just a shout out to Paul Vandenacker, doing the motorsport community proud, having a travel whopper near Brisbane Airport on his way to pick up someone for the ASBK round this weekend at Queensland Raceway. I'll be interested to hear Nacker's thoughts about what Queensland Raceway is like now that the Tony Quinn family's been out, gurneying all the toilets and repainting everything, putting the new garages in the long pit lane. I'll be looking forward to some first-hand reports from Paul Vandenacker after ASBK this weekend.
Back to the Ducatis, they have launched a front-end lowering device now on the Ducatis, and all the other teams are in uproar over it. This is what's going on. They're not allowed to do this. They can't do that. Etc. Like that. We're going to sue them. We'll take it to court. You can't use this in a race. Oh, they're carrying like pork chops. So once all settles down, and if it's actually deemed legal, you watch every other team try and copy it or do their best or activate one as well, though, too, and they'll be scrambling to make it all happen as well, too. And as Brett has got down on our lovely flowing third update of the news along the bottom there, it is Valentino Rossi said he'll join the competition for 3 or 4 races this year. Probably not compete on a bike, which is a shame. It'd be good just to see him flick one around. But and the other big news at Ducati as well, though, too, is and the vulture's already circling. It's all speculation. It's all carry on. Hopefully, Martin has said his goal this year is to get Jack Miller's spot in the factory team for next year. So one bad race, which is all come down to electrical failure, but which was mapping, mind you. It was the mapping that was the problem on the Ducati bike that he had, that it would not perform for him. That's why he just threw it in the bin after a few laps, back at the paddock, I should say, and in the pits. That's what his problem was. So other than that, a strong start for a few teams. A few of them have got things to work out, and Bag 9 has got to not do the undercut and take everybody else out with him, which was quite funny if you want to watch that on YouTube.
Paul up at Queensland Raceway. Interesting. Tony Quinn was at we caught up Tony Quinn at down at Phillip Island on the weekend. We was down there for the historics, and will obviously be there this weekend as well. So I don't know. There's a rumour we can start. Tony Quinn to buy Phillip Island. You heard it here first. There's no truth in it. I just made it up. But
the whole island or just the track?
Yes, the whole island, not the.
There's plenty of islands down there we can buy other than Phillip Island. But anyway,
the independent principality of Phillip Island. I like that. I think that would. If
some oligarchs have got too many spare billions burning a hole, it might get annexed. They'll come across the bridge from San Remo.
I just point out.
I would suggest that the national anthem for the independent state of Phillip Island needs to be able to be played on the musical instrument known as a Porsche 917.
Yes.
That would be
nice touch, Stuart. Nice touch.
That would be nice. Incidentally, the thing that Virtual Air that Roy's talking about there, this is what I'm glad you got it, Roy, because this was the end of the historic touring car race, the Group N car. I'd be interested to get some feedback from Dave on this. Western Australian driver who dominated in the Camaro basically put on a drifting competition for the last at least the last lap.
Oh yeah, I want to see this footage.
Oh boy, How
can we get a hold of it?
The problem is, both myself and Jason and Doc were all out and about, and I've had a look at the footage, and of course it's a bit like a lot of things over the years on In Pit Lane with sort of action. At every occasion we're sort of following other cars, and all you can see is sort of following the car and this smoke just pouring and going, what the. Now there must have been a tip off for this, because where I was down at Siberia, I was sitting there and I was taking no notice of it, and suddenly there was a group of guys in a big marquee behind me. They'd set up a marquee, and all of a sudden, just at the last lap, they all went, "Yeah, now!" And they all just jumped up, ran, almost trampled me to death, ran up to the fences, hung the phones out to wait for this guy. He has gone a beautiful drift the whole length of Siberia. He's gone round. He's sideways at over the top of Lukey. He's sideways through MG and coming onto the main straight. Now the thing was, at Siberia, I think Roy's got him coming onto the main straight, but at Siberia, he very, very nearly lost it. It was a real tank slapper on the way out.
So he was having a bit of a go then.
He was having a lot of fun. It was very
if you
spectacular.
Found are you going to play the footage, Brett? You've got some of it there. Are you able to access it?
No.
Why no? Or they have to wait?
We've got to ask, was it Ron Moller? Because there was footage a year ago of Ron Moller's Camaro sideways at Phillip Island.
No, this was I forget the name now, but I think it was Adam somebody. But he was over from Western Australia and put on one hell of a show.
This is for your entertainment only. It's a 20-second tidbit. I was stationed my camera on the main straight, and next thing I hear this go straight across in front of me. Someone unleashed a drone down there as well, though, too, unauthorized.
Yes.
So it was hilarious. It was quite a respectable one as well, though, too. Anyway, I won't lengthen the story out too much, but you would have found it hilarious if you were standing in the spot I was or beside me to go flying past and under the bridge on the main straight as well, too. Under it, not over it. Under the bridge.
No, yeah, you had power loop, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, straight through. And next thing, over the PA system about a minute later. Could the person who has that drone on the circuit please just take it down? It is completely illegal to have a drone on the circuit while we're doing this. It is not authorized to be out here, etc. like that. So you must get it off right away and blah 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 blah. Anyway,
that footage incidentally is up. Authorized, or some of that footage is up on YouTube at the moment, and I must say it looks absolutely magnificent.
Posted on YouTube.
Okay, so
we need
you asked for a bit of feedback. So during the latter half of Sunday, I was assisting the VHRR in conducting the outright 1, 2, 3 podium awards outside the muster shed, where we had some products on display from the corporate partners with the VHRR. So the toolboxes. And some cool boxes through Burson and through Bendix. So I was switching between the channel, talking to my team, kind of pulling the cars off the track and lining them up on the podium. And in my other ear, I had the race control channel going. And at the end of that race, I started hearing a number of calls coming in, shall we say, that commenting that the driver was due some form of special recognition, sort of driver of the day for putting on that kind of display. Yes, it was appreciated by the fans, and it was definitely appreciated by the officials. Historic racing can at times be a little bit stately, and you have some drivers who eke out a 5, 10, 15-second lead. But Aldo Di Paoli from Western Australia,
that's it, yes.
Crossed the line with a little just under 9 seconds ahead of the second car behind. And here we go. So this was for their last race of the weekend. So whatever condition the tyres were in, they were going back on the trailer with cords coming out of them, I think. So that was compared with what he did at Siberia. That was, as you can see, that was relatively. Look at that. That's onto the main straight. That is beautiful. And it's, as I said, at Siberia and of course at Honda, he basically just lit it up the whole track. So so well done, sir. Well done to you. So congratulations, and thanks Roy for making that available. That's fabulous stuff. So. Yes. Okay. So let's have a look at it again. Let's take a look at that in slow motion.
Yeah. Thank you, YouTube. Look at that. Now, just a reminder, there is actually no rule saying you can't drift a car in a regular race.
No, there's nothing about that.
It's just the way it handles. Yep. I love it.
Look at those.
Like, end of a race. That's good for the fans. That's good for publicity.
Oh, it set the and have a look at that crowd. The crowd was massive. It was a huge turnout on both Saturday and Sunday. It was a great day, and we will have an extended special edition of In Pit Lane on April 26th. And there's Roy's virtual R. That's there. So he's got some. He's got footage there that he's been taking, so you can have a look at the videos that he's got.
Even more.
That he's got there.
Yay!
So thank you to Roy, and of course, Virtual R Roy is our sponsor on In Pit Lane through online event, and once again we thank Roy for that. And yes, sorry about Tuesday night on Channel 31, but. They have been in touch late this afternoon, and they have assured me that yes, things just went a bit askew at the yes, they've got some they've got staffing issues, and they were because of the holiday, the public holiday, and all the rest of it. Things were turned out to be a bit chaotic on the Tuesday when our show popped in, so they didn't get the. Somebody new forgot to put the sponsorships in. So once again, apologies to apologies to Roy and to online event, and thank you once again for your support. Look, I think that's just a bit. We've killed off an hour there, guys. I think I'm running out of. The blood sugar is going down quickly. I'm running out of fuel myself, and I think I need to.
I won't sing the club song. Da, da, da. No, anyway.
You go for God's sake.
So they won, did they?
No. They won, did they?
Yeah, that'll give us a copyright strike, wouldn't it?
Strangely enough, actually quite convincingly, 25 points. From being 12 points down at three-quarter time to win by 25 is quite a good last quarter. So all the hype. Yeah, anyway, we're getting off the subject. So box to everyone. This season's Formula One Championships. Who your picks, drivers, constructors? Well, we usually do this.
Of course,
we usually do it
Daniel.
on a show basis or a live stream, or we do it for a Vox Pops or something like that. But
no, let's go around. Let's go around the panel. Peter, you're drivers champion and constructors champion.
I actually think Lewis Hamilton would do it this year.
Who's he? He does. He's gone. He's finished. He's racing last year.
He's got a new name now.
That's one. Yeah. I was going to say there's George Russell and there's another Lewis, some other guy that's there racing instead of Hamilton now.
Sir Lewis.
Sir Lewis, yes. Sir Lewis. So it's even longer now. He'll be slower this year because he's got to carry the name on the side.
Just think of all the drag of having all the extra letters on the
all
side.
All those extra letters, yes.
Yeah. If you said that to Beefy, he'd slap you down. He's pretty more down to earth. Old Beefy, he makes fun of it. He's a sir.
Okay, there's a big call by Andrew. Ferrari and Leclerc to win this year. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see them win the Australian Grand, and of course the Italian Grand Prix. But you know that there's going to be Carlton will just go absolutely insane. Lygon Street will melt if we get another Ferrari win. It's been a long time since we've seen a Ferrari win at Albert Park. So and that was quite the party last time.
I'm going to go something controversial. I will say Mercedes will win the constructors, which is quite nominal because they've already won it this year. But you can only hope Mr. Russell will, because he's a Saturday qualifier, so he's going to have a better Fred Flintstone card under his feet this year. So if he can pull out some Saturday specials like he has in qualifying, like he did last year, he could upset the apple cart. And if he has track position, he might win a couple of races off the back of it and frustrate a particular teammate. So I'm going to go another Max year, which is pretty boring. But he has to beat two more competitive teammates this year in Russell and Hamilton.
Stuart?
Well, I'm always going to vote for Daniel, but I would like to see, again, a certain knighted person win an 8th championship. It would be good for the sport. It would be good for the sport in that he gets the sport out there to people that don't look like us. So it gets more publicity. One note, we saw at Winton the last time we were there for Formula SAE, there was a presentation done for how many female engineers there were in the courses and attending SAE then. It seems, watching the footage from the last few test days and what have you, that there is a lot more women who have made it into the engineering in the garages at the tracks. This is a good thing for sport because it adds another 51% of the population as potential viewers. You've got to grow your audience to keep your audience.
And
yes, I'm going to vote for Daniel, but I wouldn't mind seeing Lewis win the championship just because it would be good for the sport. And as long as the championship is decided on the track, not in the control room.
A lot of those women who are there at the moment, including a couple of Australian women who are involved, of course, do have come from Formula SAE. So once again, Formula SAE is a great training point. And if you're doing engineering, if you're doing anything, as I keep saying to everybody, if you're attending any of the universities that has a Formula SAE team, you don't have to be in the engineering department. You can be in media, you can be in graphic design, you can be in industrial design, you can be in business administration. It's like RMITV. It's real world experience in running a professional race team and building up to a major international event. It is solid gold experience. So if you're in any of the universities check out if they've got a Formula SAE team, and if they have, join it, because you'll get an awful lot out of it. Dave, did we get your?
No, I was hoping to dodge this question.
Okay, well that's all we got time for this week.
No, we want to hear it.
I think Stuart's point is fair. I think the last time we had a fairly substantial rejig of the technical regulations, Mercedes came out on top with a very dominant package. It's as if their media and PR person is a bit like the horoscopes. They could just copy and paste what they've put out at the start of the last couple of years, where they undersell themselves and just take out Valtteri Bottas and put George Russell in. I think from a constructor's perspective, I think that the pairing between Verstappen and Perez is going to be far more harmonious than the pairing between Hamilton and Russell. I think Russell will definitely still have to find his feet in the team in terms of achieving a consistent performance week in, week out. So my tip would probably be Red Bull for the Constructors' Championship, just purely from pulling in consistent results between those two and not infighting with each other. But certainly, like Stuart, I would have to tip my hat and say I think Lewis Hamilton will have a fire in the... Sorry, Sir Lewis Hamilton. Sir Lewis Hamilton hyphen surname that will get added in legally at some point. He'll have a fire in the belly like he's never had before to showcase just how good he is, and get that record-setting 8th title and move himself one clear of Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, I'm actually going. I'm going to go for Verstappen again. I think that there's going to be a lot of pressure on Lewis from within the team. A lot of pressure to break that record, and a lot of pressure coming from his teammate as well. And I don't think Lewis actually likes. I don't think Lewis likes pressure all that much. So especially from within his own team. So I think that I think Max will take the. I think it'll be a bit like this year. I think Max will take another drivers' championship. And Mercedes will take the Constructors' Championship. So,
yeah, but how many cars is Max going to clean up off the track to get there?
No, he's getting better. He's not as crash happy as he used to be.
I reckon if you actually compare statistics, I reckon they would have been both pretty close last year. And the amount of times they took each other out, Sir Lewis and Mad Max. Because we discussed it and we probably agreed most of the time, didn't we, Stuart? Remember at the start of the year, last year when we were doing Full Course Yellow, we actually agreed a lot on the incidents and the outcomes and who was probably at fault and who could have done a better case of the scenario. And
for anyone watching, we don't agree on this sort of stuff very often. So, yeah.
And throughout the year, we probably did on those particular occasions. We still don't agree other stuff, but we do agree on most of the Formula One. And the funny thing was, if it wasn't every second week, it was almost every week they were doing damage to each other, which made great for a controversial and feuding season, which added to the spice of it, especially when they were locked on points there at some stage. Remember, or Lewis was behind, or someone had a DNF, and all the variety. And it came
we will, of course, be talking about that on In Pit Lane on Tuesday night, with our special guest will be Barry Rogers, and we'll also bring you up to date with news from Formula One, from Sebring, and also from Phillip Island on the weekend, as much as we can get hold of. Coming up, I'll let you know if you're going to watch us live, record the program live at 9 o'clock on the Facebook page. And remember, we don't keep that up. I mean, it's something we put it up. You can watch it live at the end of the production, at the end of the night, when we say that's a wrap. It goes down and it's gone. So if you want to see some of the behind the scenes stuff, some of the gossip stuff that you might have picked up from Barry and ourselves on Tuesday night. Our guest this Tuesday night will be the current Formula Ford leader, and he's in this weekend. Jordan Sinney will be joining us. That's this Tuesday night at 9 o'clock when we record In Pit Lane Behind the Scenes live. So anyway, everybody, thank you for joining us once again on Full Course Yellow. We really appreciate it. We're going to head off now. I'm going to actually have something to eat, and then I'm actually going to go to bed for the first time in about probably nearly 36 hours. So that'll be fun. So, okay, everybody, thanks a lot for joining us. We'll see you next week on Full Course Yellow, 9 o'clock, and of course on In Pit Lane, 8 o'clock and 8:30, Channel 31 and the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. Until then, on behalf of all of us, thanks for joining us, and bye for now. Bye.
See you in the island.
Have a great rest of the week.